Start off a little bit with obviously piggybacking on the Lionhead stuff we talked about last week with the official closure and everything. Kotaku reported that, quote, some of the biggest names in video game publishing, end quote, wrote letters of intent regarding acquiring Lionhead. And so evidently when the news broke about Lionhead sort of being shuttered, a lot of folks came forward and were like, hey, can we buy Lionhead? And Microsoft was interested in this idea, except for the stipulation that most of them also wanted the Fable IP.
Or solely wanted the Fable IP.
Yeah, exactly.
And couldn't get it. So apparently Microsoft said no, which means that part of that is that Microsoft still wants the Fable IP.
Yes.
Which I don't blame Microsoft for. Fable is like while it's not been like in the best shape lately, it is like one of the pillars that the Xbox brand is founded
It's also recognizable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, it's a game or a franchise that you can kind of lean on that people will recognize.
Yeah.
So it's like, selling that is also selling, 10 years of marketing, basically.
Yeah, and like, despite the fact that Fable as a brand in terms of its products is probably at its obviously the lowest point in the history.
Yes.
I feel like Fable as an idea is more valuable now than ever, just given the fact that fantasy seems to have become so much more popular than it was
totally.
10
It's
years
also that
ago.
it's a different kind of fantasy. Like we have, Skyrim and The Witcher, but then Fable is the one that has like more of a strong sense of humor. It's a little more lighthearted, a little more childish. So where other serious fantasy RPGs are amazing and progressively getting more popular, it seems, Fable still fills a gap that I can't really see anywhere.
No, totally. And even like aside from those games, stuff like Game of Thrones is the most popular show on TV. And
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
true.
like,
I was just about to say, like, Game of Thrones, even in just the realm of pop culture, kind of filled this void where that was left by, Lord of the Rings is gone, Harry Potter is gone. Like, there's this area where fantasy has been at a low point where Game of Thrones has really taken off, and it's like, I don't know. I think a Fable 4 announcement or a traditional Fable announcement, that still has a lot of value to Microsoft, and they know
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
which is why they don't want to get rid of it. It's a tough spot to be in, though, because what people look at from the outside is, oh, Microsoft would rather put 100 or however many people out of jobs than give away the IP, and it's like, that sounds terrible,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, if you're in a business conference room sitting on the board, that's
They have to have
you
reasons
have to
for
make
it.
that call.
And I mean,
like, Fable's
also
so
no one
valuable.
makes that call easily. Like
Yeah,
it would have
totally.
been really hard for them to do. But it's also, so they're not willing to sell Fable, but they sold or got rid of every person who was working on Fable. So it's like, if they make a Fable 4, it's not going to come anytime soon, is what this means.
no, I mean, I would imagine this game doesn't exist even as an idea yet.
Yeah.
If Fable 4 will ever exist.
Like they're just holding onto it just in case, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will exist eventually if
I
they
agree.
find the right team. But Microsoft's sort of a weird company in that I don't know what internal. Like we've talked about how cool it would be if Rare made this game,
Yeah.
but I don't think Rare's big enough. I don't think
Well,
Rare
so-
Yeah.
like has the manpower to make
Yeah.
this.
Think about that. It's also not unprecedented for Microsoft to form studios around their
Yeah.
IP, right? Like they did it with 343.
Yeah.
And they have now recently done it with Gears.
Yeah,
right?
with the
Like,
Coalition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
that's a good
so,
point.
I guess that's
for
what
instance,
Lionhead was.
Yeah, like Halo Wars is an IP that existed before with a different studio. And then
Yeah.
they're re-bringing it back now under the 343 banner. They may do something similar with
Fable.
this. Yeah.
So one of the things that got me thinking is when, according to the report, it was, quote, some of the biggest names in video game publishing.
Yeah, what
came
does that
forward and
mean?
wanted the IP.
EA's,
And so that's
Activision's.
So I'm thinking, like, it's probably not Bethesda because Bethesda has Skyrim.
Bethesda wouldn't be that.
Wasn't someone like CD Projekt Red because they have Witcher. And the
what is
the one that came to mind was Sony.
Huh. Yeah.
damn.
Because Sony doesn't have like a high
Big
fantasy thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm just
would
imagining
be
the world
really
where
funny.
on stage at a Sony conference they announce Fable 4.
Fable 4.
Coming
God.
exclusively to PS4.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I feel like that would be one of those just like room breaking moments.
People would be so mad.
Yeah.
They would be screaming. I just kind of want that to happen just to watch what
just
happens.
to watch the world burn. Yeah.
When THQ closed down, I don't really remember the details of the sales, but I don't think like EA bought one thing.
Well, so
Ubisoft.
Evolve went to 2K.
2K bought more than one thing, didn't they?
It
was a while ago now.
Yeah, I mean the big ones were Evolve. The big ones that were currently in production were Evolve going to 2K and South Park going to Ubi.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, like no one
Darksiders was
that was Vigil.
Vigil, and that's just like a small studio.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a bunch of smaller studios that sort of
Homefront?
picked up. Homefront wasn't THQ that was
I'm thinking of a different game with a different word. It's not Homefront. It's
Homeward Bound, the movie with
definitely not the movie
dogs
with
who
the
try to
dogs.
get home.
And a cat.
I don't
Yeah.
remember, but like I just feel like, EA don't really have a history of buying stuff.
I mean,
Also-
Star Wars.
BioWare.
So yeah, that's
Well, they buy studios.
Yeah. Yeah.
but not
Well, I guess
IPs.
and the IPs.
Yeah. I mean, EA, it would be interesting for.
Does
I
EA
guess
have a
BioWare
fantasy property? I
That's-
can't remember.
that's why I'm
BioWare
kind of
has Dragon
thinking-
Age.
Oh, Dragon
you're right.
Age.
Yeah, totally forgot about Dragon
yeah,
Age.
like-
That's why I was trying to figure out if EA would do that, but
Yeah.
Yeah, they have
I mean, it
Dragon
might have
Age.
also been there's smaller folks who are getting this could have been something like Deep Silver, or it could have been Telltale's
Yeah.
getting into publishing, and Gearbox is getting into publishing, and we think Riot's getting into publishing. So it could be one of these studios that you don't really think of, like Riot
wonder
is
if they
flush
want to
with
do that.
cash, and I imagine
Riot's got
like
tons of cash.
yeah, and all they're doing is League. So
Yeah.
like you imagine they're working on something else, some sort of a entertainment property, or
I
feel like they
actually
don't
think
need it.
I actually think they are working on something else. Like I can't actually cite where I think I read this, but I do vaguely remember reading an article about them developing a new IP, which I thought was interesting.
New
because-
IPs and expanding League of Legends into other mediums. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, League of Legends is big enough to have a movie or an anime or something.
I guess I
you know.
see Riot as similar to similar to Valve in that they just don't need to.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
Valve basically stopped making games because Steam is so profitable, and
yeah, but
it's like Riot
Steam,
kind of the same.
but Steam makes sense because Steam
They are
is going to
literally
be
a digital publisher.
yeah.
technically, so
Whereas
it is totally different. but-
Whereas like League of Legends could eventually fall out of vogue. Like no
That's
one
true.
thought World of
For a
Warcraft would ever
long-term
not
plan.
become popular, and
Not that it's not popular.
Just
Still
not
the biggest
where it was.
MMORPG.
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
You're right. It's lost
Code.
50% of its
Yeah.
subscriber base.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still huge, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's funny when you could say like we've lost half of our subs and we're still
Still
bigger,
have
like
millions.
exponentially
Actually,
bigger than anyone
Then
else.
the next guy
in
behind
terms
you.
of stats, does anyone know if Dota or League is bigger?
League
I
is
know
bigger.
Dota
Yeah.
still gets bigger prize pool for the international and everything, but
Yeah, League is bigger in terms of user base and viewership even. But
Yeah.
I think consensus by the community is that Dota is the better game.
well,
Yeah.
I hope that I don't offend any League players, but I would think that the League audience is possibly bigger because it has a younger audience as well. Like, I think kids in school are playing a whole lot of League, whereas Dota is a
Skews
harder
older.
game,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I
Oh,
would
you're
guess
definitely
more-
offending the audience.
I probably am. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah. I really like Dota.
I mean, I guess we can offend people if I feel like we believe what we're saying is right, but I think Dota is mechanically more challenging.
Oh no, it totally is.
Yeah.
I feel like I think even League players would agree with that. It is more challenging, but
Yeah.
I'm not confident in saying that's why people play. Younger people play League.
Oh yeah, that's
No,
true.
so
We don't know
stop that.
why. We don't know why people play the games that they do. Plus, like I know a lot of people out there who really love League. Kyle O'Connor, we got out there who loves League and
That's
also
true.
plays Dota. There's a lot of like both games are super fun, and they both are really really popular.
Yeah.
So, League of Legends fans, send your hate mail to Sean and Alana. And not me, because I abstain from talking because I think MOBAs are very dumb.
But you did that
Well,
one.
you asked for your own hate mail there, Marty. You really,
Oh, dang.
yep, you really screwed that up on the end.
But Marty did do a really awesome MOBA video one time where he announced
Oh,
what
yeah.
was going on in Dota.
Mitch,
Was it Dota or League?
Yeah, Mitch had me shoutcast a match of Dota with him. And it was the first match of Dota I'd ever seen.
That's amazing.
There was a nice
Should
river.
mention, Marty and I went to baseball last night. See the Giants, and
What? Neither of you are anyone I would peg as going to a baseball game.
well, we did. We were present.
We're baseball
It
connoisseurs.
was very cold. And I decided that at some point, we call American football gridiron in Australia. I'm going to just get very drunk and record myself explaining what is happening
Oh,
to
you
people
totally
that I'm
should.
friends with,
Yeah.
and try and commentate the entire game. I think they go for like 2 hours.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
long
Yeah.
like that's a.
If you
I
fast
don't know
forward
about
through-
you. I don't know if you know this, but baseball is one of those games that theoretically doesn't have to end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It could go on
last
forever.
night's
It
game
could
was
go
actually
on
pretty quick.
forever.
No, but I mean, that's gridiron would be what I would be doing. Baseball
Oh,
is like a lot of
football.
nothing
Stop
happens.
Calling
so
it gridiron.
that's what we
Gridiron.
call it.
It's so weird. But I got to teach you a lot about baseball.
Yes.
Like when
I learned
one
several
of the men
things.
do a good hit, it's called doing a good baseball.
Yes.
you get on base,
some of them
you've
did
done a
do
baseball.
good baseballs.
Yeah.
Some of them did not.
Some of the poor baseballs.
Yes, there was a lot of bad baseballing by the Giants last night.